Okay, so this is the book. This is Lectures on Homeopathy Philosophy by J.T. Kent, James Tyler Kent. So the first lecture on homeopathy philosophy is the Sikh. The lecture one is Sikh. Homeopathy asserts that there are principles which govern the practice of medicine. It may be said that up till the time of Hahnemann, no principles of medicine were recognized. And even at this day, in the writings and action of the old school, there is a complete acknowledgement that no principles exist. The old school declares that the practice of medicine depends entirely upon experience, upon what can be found out by giving medicines to the sick. Their shifting methods and theories and rapid discoveries and abandonment of the same fully attested sincerity of their acknowledgement and declaration. That's funny, right? So homeopathy leaves allopathy at this point, and so in this manner the great division between the two schools is affected. That there are principles homeopathy affirms, the old school denies the existence of principles, and with apparent reason, looking at the matter from the standpoint of their practice and methods, they deal only with ultimates. They observe only results of disease, and either deny or have no knowledge of the real nature of man, what he is, where he came from, what his qualities is in sickness or in health. They say nothing about the man except in connection with his tissue. They characterize the changes in the tissue as the disease and all there is of the disease, its beginning and its end. In the effect, they proclaim disease to be something that exists without a cause. They they accept nothing but what can be felt with the fingers and seen with the eyes, or otherwise observed through the senses. Aided by improved instruments, the finger is aided by the microscope to an elongated point, and the microscopic pathological results of disease are noted and considered to be the beginning and the ending. That is, results without anything prior to them. That is a summary of allopathic teaching as to the nature of sickness. But homeopathy perceives that there is something prior to these results. Every science teaches, and every investigation of the scientific character proves that everything which exists does so because of something prior to it. Only in this way can we trace cause and effect in a series from beginning to end and back again from the end to the beginning. By this means we arrive at a state in which we do not assume but in which we know. The first paragraph of the organon will be understood by an inexperienced observer to mean one thing and by a true and experienced homeopath to mean another. Paragraph 1. The physician's high and only mission is to restore the sick to health, to cure as it is termed. No controversy will arise from a superficial reading of this statement, and until Hahnemann's hidden meaning of the word sick is fully brought to the view, the physician of any school will assent. The idea that one person will entertain as to the meaning of the word sick will be different at times from which another will entertain. So long as it remains a matter of opinion, there will be differences of opinion. Therefore, the homeopath must abandon the mere expressions of opinion. Allopathy rests on individual opinion, and allopaths say that the science of medicine is based on the consensus of opinion, but this is unworthy and unstable foundation for the science of curing the sick. It will never be possible to establish a rational system of therapeutics until we reason from facts as they are, not as they sometimes appear. Facts as they appear are expressed in the opinions of men, but facts as they are facts and truths from which doctrines are evolved and formulated, which will interpret or unlock the kingdom of nature in a realm of sickness or health. Therefore, beware of the opinion of men in science. Hahnemann has given us principles which we can study and advance upon. It is the law that governs the world and not matters of opinion or hypothesis. We must begin by having a respect for law, for we have no starting point unless we base our proposition of law. So long as we recognize man's statement, we are in the state of change. For man and hypothesis change. Let us acknowledge authority. The true homeopath, when he speaks of sick, knows who it is that is sick, whereas the allopath doesn't know. The latter thinks that the house which the man lives, which is being torn down, expresses all there is of sickness. In other words, that the tissue changes, which are only the result of disease, are all that there is of sick man. The homeopath observes wonderful changes resulting from the potentized medicine, and being compelled to reflect, he sees that crude drugs cannot heal the sick, and that what changes they do effect are not real but only apparent. Modern physiology has no vital doctrine in its teaching, and therefore no basis to work upon. The doctrine of the vital force is not admitted by the teachers of physiology, and therefore the homeopath sees that true physiology is not yet taught. For without the vital force, without simple substances, without the internal as well as external, there can be no cause and no relation between cause and effect. Now, what is meant by the sick? It is a man that is sick and to be restored to health, not his body, not the tissue. You will find many people who will say, I am sick. They will enumerate pages of symptoms, pages of suffering. They look sick, but they tell you, I have been to the most eminent physician. I have had my chest examined. I have been to the neurologist. I have been to the cardiac specialist and have had my heart examined. The eye specialist has examined my eyes. I have been to the gynecologist and have had my uterus examined, says the woman. I have been physically examined from head to foot, and they tell me I am not sick. They tell me I am not sick. I have no disease. Many a time have I heard this story after getting 3 or 4 pages of symptoms. What does it mean? It is true. If the state progresses, there will be evidence of disease. That is, evidences which the pathologist may discover by the physical examination. What? Wow. Evidences which the pathologist may discover by his physical examination. But at present the patient is not sick, says the learned doctor. But what do all these symptoms mean? I do not sleep at night. I have pain and aches. My bowels do not move. And the doctor says, oh, well, you have constipation. That is the first thing that has been diagnosed. But do all these things exist without a cause? It would seem, from one opinion, that the constipation is a disease per se, but from another opinion, it would appear to be the cause of disease. The diagnosis is made to apply to one as much as to the other. But this is the character of vagaries so common to old school whims. Wow. These symptoms are but the language of nature, talking out as it were and showing as clearly as daylight the internal nature of sick man or woman. If this state progresses, the lungs break down. The doctor says, oh, now you have consumption. Or a great change appears in the liver and he says, oh, now you have fatty degeneration of the liver. Or albumin appears in the urine and he tells the patient, now I am able to name your disease. You have some one of the forms of Bright's disease. It is nonsense to say that prior to the localization of disease, the patient is not sick. Does it not seem clear that the patient has been sick and very sick, even from childhood? Under traditional methods, it is necessary that the diagnosis be made before the treatment can be settled. But in the most cases, the diagnosis not be made until the results of disease have rendered the patient incurable. Again, take the nervous child. It has wild dreams, twitching, restless sleep, nervous excitement, hysterical manifestation, but if we examine all the organs of the body, we will find nothing the matter with them. This sickness, however, which is present if allowed to go uncured, will in 20 or 30 years result in tissue change. The organs will become affected, and that then it will be said that the body is diseased, but the individual has been sick from the beginning. It is a question whether we start out and consider the results of disease or begin at the beginning with the cause. If we have material ideas of disease, we will have material ideas of the means of cure. If we believe an organ is sick and alone constitute the disease, we must feel that if we could remove the organ, we could cure the patient. But that's not the case, because organs are never sick. It is the man that is sick. So I this will teach you later, but I shouldn't just stop and talking, because it won't matter much, because this book is so long and it will have more details. Okay, let me go. If we believe an organ is sick and alone constitute the disease, we must feel that if we could remove the organ, we could cure the patient. A man has a necrotic condition of the hand. Then if we believe that only the hand is sick, we would think we had cured the patient by removing his hand. Say the hand is cancerous. According to this idea, it is cancerous in itself and from itself. And seeing that he would later die from the cancer of his hand, we would conscientiously remove the hand and so cure the patient. For an eruption on the skin, we would use local means to stimulate the function of the skin and make it heal, and believe the eruption had no cause behind it. We would conscientiously think we had cured the patient, but this is the reductio ad absurdum, for nothing exists without a cause. The organs are not the man. The man is prior to the organs. From last to first is the order of sickness. From first to last is the order of sickness as well as the order of cure. From man to his organ, and not from organs to the man. Well, then who is the sick man? The tissues could not become sick unless something prior to them had been deranged and so made them sick. What is there of this man that can be called the internal man? What is there that can be removed so that the whole that is physical may be left behind? We say that man dies, but he leaves his body behind. We dissect the body and find all his organs. Everything that we know by the senses belongs to physical man. Everything that we could feel with the fingers and see with the eyes, he leaves behind. The real sick man is prior to the sick body, and we must conclude that the sick man must be somewhere in that portion which is not left behind. That which is carried away is primary, and that which is left behind is ultimate. We say the man feels, sees, tastes, hears, he thinks, and he lives, but these are only outward manifestation of thinking and living. The man wills and understands. The cadaver does not will and does not understand. Then that which takes its departure is that which knows and wills. It is that which can be changed and is prior to the body. The combination of these two, the will and the understanding, constitute man. Conjoined, they will make life and activity. They manufacture the body and cause all things of the body. With the will and understanding operating in order, we have a healthy man. It is not our purpose to go behind the will and the understanding to go prior to this. It is enough to say that they were created. Then, man is the will and the understanding, and the house which he lives in is his body. We must, to be scientific homeopaths, recognize that the muscles, the nerves, the ligaments, and the other parts of man's frame are pictured and manifest to the intelligent physician, the internal man. Both the dead and the living body are to be considered not from the body to the life, but from the life to the body. If you were to describe the difference between two human faces, their character and everything you observed of their action, you would be describing scarcely more than the will. The will is expressed in the face. Its result is implanted on the countenance. Have you ever studied the face of an individual who has grown up to be a murderer or a villain of some sort? Is there no difference between his face and that of the one who has the will to do good, to live uprightly? Go down into the lowest part of our great city and study the face of these people. These people are night prowlers. They are up late at night studying villainy. If we inquire into it, we will see that the affections are of that kind. They have the stamp upon their faces. They have evil affection and an evil face, the countenance that is expressive of the heart. Allopathic pathology recognizes nothing but man's body. Yet one can easily confuse the allopath by asking him what man's thought is, what man is. The homeopath must master this thing before he can perceive the nature of the cause of disease and before he can understand what cure is. It is sole duty of physician to heal the sick. It is not his sole duty to heal the results of sickness, but the sickness itself, and when the man himself has been restored to health, there will be restored harmony in the tissue and in the activities. Then the sole duty of the physician is to put in order the interior of the economy, that is, the will and understanding conjoined. Tissue changes are of the body and are the result of diseases. They are not the disease. Hahnemann once said, "There are no diseases but sick people," from which it is clear that the Hahnemann understood that diseases, so-called example bright diseases, liver diseases, etc., were but the grosser forms of disease, result with appearance of disease. There is purse disorder of government, and this proceeds from within outward until we have pathological changes in the tissue. In the practice of medicine today, the idea of government is not found, and the tissue changes only are taken into account. The man who considers disease results to be the disease itself, and accepts to do away with this as disease is insane. It is an insanity in medicine, an insanity that has grown out of the milder forms of mental disorder in science, crazy whims. The bacteria are a result of diseases. In the course of time, we will be able to show perfectly that the microscopical little fellows are not the disease cause, but they come after, that they are scavengers accompanying the disease, and that they are perfectly harmless in every respect. They are the outcome of the disease. They are the outcome of the disease, are present wherever the disease is, and by the microscope it has been discovered that every pathological result has its corresponding bacteria. The old school considered this the cause, but we will be able to show that disease cause is much more subtle than anything that can be shown by a microscope. We will be able to show you by a process of reasoning, step by step, the folly of hunting for disease, cause of implements of senses. In a note, Hahnemann says, "The physician mission is not, however, to construct so-called system by interweaving empty speculation and hypotheses concerning the internal essential nature of vital force, and the mode in which disease originates, and in the invisible interior of the organism, etc. We know that in the present day people are perfectly satisfied if they can find the name of disease they are supposed to have, an idea cloaked in some wonderful technicality. An old Irishman walked into the clinic one day, and after giving his symptoms said, "Doctor, what is the matter with me?" The physician answered, "Why, you have nux vomica." That being his remedy, whereupon the old man said, "Well, I did think I had some wonderful disease or other." That is an outgrowth of the old-fashioned folly of naming sickness. Except in the few acute diseases, no diagnosis can be made, and no diagnosis need be made except that the patient is sick. The more one thinks of the name of disease so called, the more one is beclouded in the search for the remedy. For then the mind is only upon the results of disease and not upon the image expressed in symptoms. A patient of 25 years of age A patient of 25 years of age with gravest inheritance, with 20 phases of symptoms, and with only symptoms to furnish an image of sickness is perfectly curable if treated in time. After being treated, there will be no pathological results. He will go on to old age without any tissue destruction. But that patient, if not cured at an early age, will take on disease result in accordance with the circumstance of his life and his inheritance. If he is chimney sweep, he will be subject to disease peculiar to chimney sweep. If she is a housemaid, she will be subject to the disease peculiar to housemaids, etc. That patient has the same disease he had when he was born. This array of symptoms represent the same state before the pathological condition have been formed as after. And it is true, if he has liver disease or brain disease or any of the many tissue changes that they call disease, you must go back, procure these very symptoms before you can make a prescription. Wow. Prescribing for the results of disease causes changes in the result of disease, but not in the sickness except to hurry its progress. Okay. We will see peculiarities running through families. In the beginning, it is the primary state which is presented only by signs and symptoms, and the whole family needs the same remedy or a cognate of that remedy. But if in one member of the family the condition runs to cancer, in another to phthisis, etc., but all from the same common foundation, this fundamental condition which underlies the disease of the human race must be understood. Without the knowledge of this, it will be impossible to understand the acute miasmatic disease, which will be considered later. It will be seen that some persons are susceptible to one thing and some to another. If an epidemic comes upon the land, only a few come down with it. Why are some protected and why do others take it? These things must be settled by the doctrines of homeopathy. Idiosyncrasies must be accounted for. Many physicians waste their time searching after the things that make their patients sick. The sick man will be made sick under every circumstances, whereas the healthy man could live in a lazaretto. It is not the principal business of the physician to be hunting in the rivers and the cellars and examining the food we eat for the cause of disease. It is his duty to hunt out the symptoms of the sickness until a remedy is found that covers the disorder. That remedy which will produce on healthy men similar symptoms is the master of the situation, is the necessary antidote, will overcome the sickness, restore the will and understanding to order and cure the patient. To get at the real nature of the human economy and to lead up from that to sickness opens out a field for investigation in a most scientific way. Sickness can be learned by the study of the proving of drugs upon the healthy economy. Hahnemann made use of the information thus obtained when he stated that the mind is the key to the man. The symptoms of the mind have been found by all his followers to be the most important symptoms in a remedy and in sickness. Man consists in what he thinks and what he loves, and there is nothing else in man. If these two grand parts of man, the will and the understanding, be separated, it would mean insanity, disorder, death. All medicines operate upon the will and understanding first, sometimes extensively on both, affecting man in his ability to think or to will, and ultimately upon the tissue, the function and sensation. In the study of Oron, we found the affections are most disturbed by that drug. Man's highest possible love is for his love. Oram so destroys this, that he does not love his life, he will commit suicide. Argentinum, on the other hand, so destroys man's understanding, that he is no longer rational. His memory is entirely ruined. So with every proof drug in the Materia Medica, we see them affecting first man's mind and proceeding from the mind to the physical economy, to the outermost, to the skin, the hair, the nail. If medicine are not thus studied, you will have no knowledge of them that you can carry with you. The Materia Medica has been established upon this basis. Sickness must therefore be examined by a true scrutiny of the elements that make up the morbid changes that exist in the likeness of drug symptoms. To the extent that drugs, in improving upon healthy men, have brought out symptoms on the animal ultimate, must we study sickness with the hope of adjustment, remedy to sickness in man under the law of stimulus. Ultimate symptoms, ultimate symptoms, function symptoms, sensorium symptoms, and mind symptoms are all useful and none should be overlooked. The idea of sickness in man must be formed from the idea of sickness perceived in our Materia Medica. As we perceive the nature of sickness in a drug image, so must we perceive the nature of sickness in a human being to be healed. Therefore, our idea of pathology must be adjusted to such a Materia Medica as we possess, and it must be discovered wherein these are similar in order to heal the sick. The totality of symptoms written out carefully is all that we know of the internal nature of sickness. Then the proper administration of the similar remedy will constitute the art of healing. So this is it. This is actually a lecture by Kent, J.T. Kent, that was given in a class. So a student actually noted it down and made it into a book. James Tyler Kent didn't publish this book. It was published by a student who actually noted it down and published it. So if you guys want this book, you should. Okay.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.